really don't belong. I can't explain it. When I close my eyes, I see a strange reality. Am I dreaming? Or on the edge of remembering? You wake up feeling like you really don't belong. You can't explain it, but when you close your eyes you see familiarity. Are you dreaming? Or on the edge of remembering? Ta-da! The microphone's back. Let's get rid of that one. Yeah, I can hardly see it even with my glasses on. Hello and happy Sunday. I got the chat here. I can see. Can't hear, but I can see. Okay, so for those of you who have been following the show, I've been working on some drawings for a friend's book. And it turns out she is very happy with that one, so I'm not going to have to do this design over as I have been. We'll mail that out to her and she'll be happy. These have become scrap, but I do need to work on that. And it turns out for the style of book that she's doing, from what I can gather, this is overkill. She needs things that look a little bit like, well, kind of like that, casual sketches, like someone who's making notes in their kitchen of what they want to do in their garden or to replace their garden. So we're going to turn that into a card for Gloria. Of course, everything is for Gloria. This, however, is just going to be garbage. There's no redeeming that. And this is really my sketch for the next sketch, because this paper is too trashed to have a photograph done, and I don't want to get into that. Let's cut off all the edges, and now we'll just start from scratch. This is just a reminder of what I have to do. That looks so pretty in the right light, and right now that it looks like the sun is a little too bright for you to see that, but it's not great close up. It was going to be a plate for my cake. I was looking for something a little contrasty, but I'm going to do something entirely different with that now that it's not going to go in a book. Okay, this was one of those mornings where I got up way earlier than I wanted to and couldn't get back to sleep. Had to take a pill, and then I did fall asleep sitting up. My last 2 hours of sleep were sitting up, which my body was fine with. However, my mouth breathing wasn't, so I'm a little hoarse today, that's why. But other than that, I got enough sleep and I feel fine. I just wanted to do too many things this morning, and ended up not doing one of the things I really should have done, which was I was going to make bacon and eggs, because I have this package of bacon that, and you know, I went years without ever buying bacon, but because of the current economy and all that, I made sure I had some bacon in my fridge and freezer for times that might get harder than we expect or want. Because without some fat in your diet, you will die. And most of my food does not have any fat in it. So I thought it would be prudent to just put up a couple pounds of fatty meat, because you can also use the fat for cooking. And some of my recipes are definitely old-timey, like hoe cakes. Now that is just a simple cornmeal and boiling water recipe, a little salt, add anything you want to it, and bam, you've got patties. Thin them out more, you got flatbread. It's just really good. But in the old-fashioned way, they had to use some kind of fat, because the cornmeal on its own is not going to be any kind of, well, it's really hard to absorb nutrients without something a little fatty for the oily-based nutrients like vitamin D. So they used things, whatever they could get. If they were lucky, they got a piece of fat back or some piece of pork that had fat. You can melt that and cook stuff on that. So I was thinking in the Depression era recipes, and so that's why I ended up with bacon in my house, which, like I said, years and years with no bacon. 10 years with no bacon. So. Okay, enough about the bacon. I was going to cook some, and I didn't. I also was going to cook a couple of eggs, and I didn't do that either. So we're just going to work until lunchtime, and then I will have some really good chicken that I made yesterday. All right, we're going to take these off. I still like to be able to send her 2 paintings the same size. Okay, we'll leave that for the moment. So today, here in Connecticut anyway, we will have an official full snow moon around 5 p.m., or just a minute before 5 actually. I am a moon watcher. And it turns out I was raised to be a moon watcher, because the calendar my grandparents followed was basically a moon calendar. So I got used to all that, but growing up, after I walked away from religion, at 15, I just, was living like everybody else, or most people with your regular Julian calendar, the one you get for cheap at the dollar store and Walmart. So I grew up with that too, and later on, as an adult, I went to buy a calendar for my new house. I couldn't find one that had all the moon phases on it, and I thought that was kind of surprising. I actually had to order a moon phase calendar specifically because they weren't in the stores. I had to order it by mail order, and I still can't find one in the stores. But I could be looking in the wrong kind of stores. So I'm going to have to investigate that further. I will still probably have to send away for it because without a car, I do not ask my friends and neighbors to just whimsically take me to other places. Although one of my friends and I are doing something whimsical. As soon as the weather warms up enough so that I can breathe outdoors, we're going to go to a yarn shop that's not very far from here, as it turns out. And at this yarn shop, they have real wool and viscose that they dye themselves. It's like, yeah, just being in a shop where everything has been made by artisans and not in some mill by people working lines. And I mean, I've worked factories. I actually like working in factories, which some people think is weird, but I love seeing how things are made and then taking part in it. I don't think I'd stay in any one factory for all my life. I'd find it boring. But the learning part and doing it for a while, I found a kind of a mental relief because I was self-employed as a musician, songwriter, and all that, and it's hard to keep up, especially if you're in the country and you've got to drive everywhere to play and make a little bit of money. And so you do need to take your little straight jobs here and there. So off season, like winter, when some places I played tended not to get much tourism, so there wasn't entertainment during most of the cold ones. Things are hopping in New England in the summer. But I liked taking the factory jobs because with the factory job, and I'm not promoting people just to work in factories, I'm just telling you my personal experience. It's like when you're always having to work to promote yourself, your music, we didn't have emails, so we didn't have shortcuts. Everything had to be hand done, and a lot of money went out to printers and fast printers to print up your calendar, your performance calendar, which you also had to mail to people if you gathered their mail addresses. So it was something you had to always do. And in a factory, you punched in and you punched out. And between those hours of punching in and punching out, your life was completely your own, and you didn't have to scramble. You didn't have to worry about a machine in the factory being maintained because they did it. You just punched in, did your job, and left. And I kind of liked that. I didn't have to take it home with me. There was nothing I did in a factory, although interesting at the time, and it was fun to tell people about what I did, like making mood rings, the tops, the little gems that go on top of the mood ring. It was fun to do stuff like that, but like I said, they're limited in their excitement, and I have to have some kind of creativity in my life that keeps me going. So let's get creative. Pull out. With this much sun, I have to admit it's hard to use the iridescent paints because as you're painting, you see every flaw. These are very transparent. That's the problem with all these metallic paints. With watercolor, I mean, I'm sure they're doing better. Some of my acrylics are denser, but they tend to be very thin, and their joy is in how they bounce light. But when it comes to a watercolor painting, it can really throw the eye off. Okay, let's see. Something for sprouts. Well, the nice thing about sprouts, growing them, is light is not the same factor it is with every other plant. My sprouts, except for ones that I put in a little bit of soil, they grow in the dark in a closet for a few days, and they're only seeing light the same damn harvesting. A couple of hours in semi-sunny area, they get enough green. You don't want too much green in those sprouts because the green is chlorophyll, which you need, but it also makes them a little bit bitter, or more on the bitter side. And I prefer my sweets. I like my red clover sprouts. They tend to be on the sweet side. Alfalfa now, alfalfa was the original. Everybody was in the 60s growing alfalfa, superfood. And I think the biggest reason for its promotion was that the seeds themselves are abundant, therefore very cheap, and the last time I bought some, I've got a big bag of them, like, I don't know, half a pound of alfalfa seeds. Wasn't expensive, even organic. But those seeds are very prolific. Anybody can grow them, and that's what, of course, we like about those. There are some very spicy sprouts, like, radish sprouts are yummy. They are nice and crisp and are great on salads, great on sandwiches. And the sprouts taste just like the adult. Like my beet greens taste like beets. Different texture and all. And they're so pretty. Beet greens are magenta, with little green tops for the leaves. Okay, do it dry, because we're going to use pencils on you. So anyway, back to the full moon. The full moon is a beautiful symbol, not just for romance. It symbolizes the end of a project, the culmination of a project. And if you're a farmer and you're planting things, although right now I don't know where you can plant, full moon is when you plant things that are going to grow up above the ground. It's heading toward the new moon. When it gets to the new moon and the moon is decreasing, I said when the moon is, we get full and then we're decreasing. Let me go backward. Oh my God, I forgot. A whole lifetime of following these things and I just went blank. When the moon is growing toward the full, you plant the above ground crops. When the moon is decreasing, you plant the root crops. That was it. Okay, anyway, full moons are when the promises you made on the new moon. Okay, new moons are good for new projects. I made a mistake with that when I got married my first time. because my husband was a printer and I was able to draw our wedding invitations. I chose the Ace of Cups from the tarot deck, and we planned it for the full moon, which happened to be the first day of spring that year, which happened to be the 20th of March instead of usually the 21st. And it was just such an odd day. I thought it was awesome. That's perfect for our wedding day, the full moon. But actually, the full moon, while romantic, as I said, is also unpredictable when it comes to your women's bodies. And the worst that could have happened did. Women, you know what I'm talking about. But also, if you're starting a marriage, getting married on a day that symbolizes the end of cycles or the culmination of cycles, I would have to say, well, okay, well, it's the culmination of our romance, and then now we're married officially, but it should have been the other way. Get married on a new moon and leave the full moon for celebrating later on your honeymoon. That is, if you're into the moon and mythologies, symbolism, and all that other stuff. Aside from the female thing and the tides, anything we add to the moon is our own. Over the years, I came to see the moon as a bouncing off place. Like, literally. You can enjoy the moon knowing that everybody on the planet, unless they're stuck inside without windows, they can see the moon. And it's kind of like a universal symbol. Everybody's got the moon in their sky. So when I was missing somebody, like when my husband traveled, I would imagine sending him my love via the moon, bouncing it off the moon to wherever he happened to be. I guess that's about as romantic as I get. But I still think of that when, I mean, I don't need it anymore because I know more about how energy works. But I can still enjoy that symbolism of bouncing things off the moon. So if you ever want to talk to somebody, dead or alive, if you don't feel confident in your own ability to connect, then use the moon. Okay, a sip. Okay, what do we want for this? Flowers. Our little butterfly friend. Should do it for the background. How about a cerulean? I'll have to pick that up. Back to sprouts. I know. I bounce around there. I think alfalfa sprouts were mostly popular among hippies because they were cheap and they were known to be a superfood. Alfalfa is something we feed our animals, alfalfa hay and all, but it's a very good food for humans. Now, I don't know anybody personally that's ever gone out and gathered the full-grown greens of alfalfa and cooked them or used them in a salad. I haven't seen that, but I have seen lots of people use the sprouts, and I sprouted them for years, those and mung beans. And mung beans are big and fat enough where you can stir fry them, you can throw them in soup. I usually make them with ramen, and they take flavoring really well. And the second husband used to love mung beans with some hot sauce as a snack, so he'd spice up a bag of beans for him, or sprouts, and he'd take them to work. So I liked knowing he was eating some healthy stuff, weird as it may seem to other people. But I lost my love for alfalfa after having so many different other sprouts that were juicier, meatier. Now when I grow alfalfa, which I do mix a little bit in with some other stuff when I make a mix for salads, it just makes me think of grass, green, freshly mown grass. That's alfalfa sprouts. And they're so thin and like hair-like compared to like red clover or radish. If you want to try some sprouts with some spice, a very healthy seed, another all sprouts, you can just say them as all superfoods, because they have so much nutrition in that little teeny bit there that you eat. It's a powerhouse of nutrition. So add sprouts wherever you can. Like I said, you can grow them in a jar in a closet. In a few days, you got something to rinse, put in the sun, and then dry them and put them in your refrigerator. You'll have a very good source of nutrition through winter without, I mean, that's if you can't get lettuce or any other safe greens, grow them. It's really simple. And the nice thing about YouTube is there are thousands of videos on growing sprouts, different kinds of sprouts and different methods for growing them. Now, some of them are way overkill. They are the commercial growers of sprouts. If you're just doing this for you, just skip over those. It's like way overkill. Way overkill. I watched a bunch of them, and that's how I came to that conclusion. It's like, you know what? You're giving me a whole bunch of information I'm never going to use, and it's never going to be practical for my little apartment. I have one place they can get some sun, and I've got one closet I can stick them in where they can safely grow in the dark. So look at your situation and decide how much space you need. My whole sprouting space is 2-quart mason jars with screw-on screen lids and a tray for them to drain on, and that's it. It's just a little bit of space, and I get a week's worth of food out of 2 jars. I mean, I get it so much I share it with my neighbors. It's like, hey, I'm growing mung beans this week. You want some? And everybody gets a big handful. It's like 1 tablespoon of seed fills an entire quart jar with enough to share. Now, mung beans, you might want to make soup out of all those beans, in which case you'll keep them to yourself. But I find it a lot of fun to share and get people going on it. Try this. Try growing some. I'll get you started even. Fresh vitamin C and all that in the middle of winter. Yay! Even in places that have very little sun. You're too wet. Okay. We have to move things around so they can dry between stages. Okay, I set up a resist on the edge. I don't know how well it's going to work. This is an experiment with some rice paper, and it's like completely washed out in the sun, I see. So that rice paper has a lot of holes in it. So I do not want them to get filled with the shade I'm going to put in here now. Let's see if it works. First we must mix up some color. Let's go with a little cerulean after all. It's a little wet now, so let's go ahead with that. This is a piece of mulberry rice paper already down on top of the watercolor to give me some extra textures, and the way it adheres is going to dictate which way this paint moves. So it's always unpredictable to a large degree, unless you work with the same setup every day. Then it gets more predictable. This is going to be intense. No, don't cross the line. You crossed the line. It went under. I don't know. Okay. It's going to take some serious flattening again. But that's okay, we're ready. I got a message. Maui is awake. Why are you awake? Why are you putting me on a horse? Jesus Christ. I like my wings. Okay, Maui has been busy. He should be asleep. Instead, he is playing with AI art. Now, how very Roman, but you can't help but like that crown. How do I look as a blonde? Cowgirl, huh? Well, at least I'm holding a gun. It's a very small gun. Well, that's getting better. Yes. Okay, baby. Now we got it. Okay, check this out. If I can make it go. And we take off on my wild horse. Well, I trained it. Thank you, Maui. Aloha. Although, damn, I'm good in the saddle, eh? I mean, I didn't mean it that way. You have me as a very good rider of the storm there. Okay. crazy man. So, you're awake on Sunday morning. Good morning. Welcome. What are you going to do today? Okay, I'm going to have to press this. And we'll see what happens to the color that's moving underneath and between the two layers of paper. Oh, there you are. Okay. I can finish work on that. That was actually rejected. I rejected it. But I stuck it somewhere to lay flat, and I found it yesterday. It's like, you know what? I know somebody who would love to have this. So I will actually sign it. It's actually from 2025, but I'm signing it in 26, so we'll lie. Now what I did get out of this was an experiment, again, paper on paper, to see how the color moves. You can get such cool effects with wet tissue paper. So that's basically what I was messing with here. And I discovered a different way of doing it by my first experiment. So, first experiment we will send out, and we will proceed with more experiments. You know, I think I'll send this to Annie too. She might be able to use that in some little corner. Okay, that is just a postcard. So it was supposed to snow today after all. First we were going to get a feet, and now it's 0. But I did see some actual snowflakes this morning. Wispy, flying around, not going anywhere, certainly nothing to accumulate. It's like, okay, someone's getting hit. Thank goodness it's not here. We have enough on our plate. There's a car outside my window that is still completely buried in the snow. It's going to probably sit there until the spring thaw. I don't know how they're going to shovel that out now. I forgot to put the heat on under my tea. I'm going, why is this cool? Where, oh where did my spongy go? I have a whole bag of sponges. Oh yes. I took it off the table to make room. Now let's go ahead and do this. Oh, I miss Terra Verte. Oh, I've got a little bit left. What could I use instead? Textural. Well, let's check it out. Can you hear the wind? That car that's buried in the snow, some sticks fell on it from the wind and they're sticking out of the car like antenna. I should have sprayed this before I tried to flatten that. Blue. Now this has to go through the mail postcard. It's a little smaller. I could fit it in an envelope, I suppose. It would be cheaper to use a postage stamp though for postcards. They have certainly been getting pricey. Starting to see stamps like an investment. Yeah, the price is going up in January. Make sure you stock up on the forever stamps. They'll be good until you run out and you got to buy more. Now, I have loved stamps since I was a little girl. I don't know why I never really officially collected them. I did collect them for a little while, and then one year Christmas happened when I was poor, and I ended up using my collection to mail out Christmas cards and letters. I tried to save a few of the most unusual, but in the end they disappeared somewhere over time. But I'm surprised I didn't get set up. I guess my dad wasn't into collecting things, so nobody thought to turn me on to coin collecting or stamp collecting. I did hear about people collecting baseball cards, but I had zero interest in baseball, so no. Also, I never met a girl who was collecting cards. I guess that also had an influence on my having zero interest in collecting cards. But the girls seem to like collect some of the silliest things. I didn't like that either. But I was one of those kids who was parentified very early on. I became my mother's mother. So a lot of things were normal child me, and some things were just too adultified, and they made no sense to me. Now I can be a child and I'm enjoying it. Okay, no, this is not done, but again, we have to wait for drying time. Okay, how are we doing? Good. Maybe I should go with a pencil first. Oh. I forgot about this. The collection. We collect these because watercolor pencils, when you sharpen them, you're getting rid of actual watercolor paint, pigment, and I don't like wasting it because I've come up with more fun things to do with it. But what I've also done is separate the dark colors from the light because of the way I'm using them. For example, the banner for my stream is currently a banner made with these little bits of color that I preserved from pencil shavings because the effect is just so cool. But now that I've got pinks and greens here, I don't really want gray. That is one thing about mushing colors together. You do end up with some dark spot. Well, that's paint that I also brought through it. But if you mush it too much, you know, you just get muddy colors. a sketch look like a sketch? I'll probably have to do this several times before I'm happy. I have to sign my name to it after all. And I'm picky about that. And this is not going to look really white, is it? Oops, wrong place. Well, that just looks messy, doesn't it? You know what I think I'm going to do, since I have a few weeks before this is due, I have to start some fresh sprouts. I'll go ahead and take some pictures of those fresh sprouts. And then I've got something to work from. It's hard to do it from imagination when I've grown them in so many different places. Yeah, I will have to do that. I think I'll like that better. Yeah. Let me take care of you another day. Boy, I'm glad this was not expensive paper. Especially because it's warped from the start. I will grow some sprouts and I will take some pictures. Now, she was looking for a story about walking sticks, walking canes. I was hoping I knew somebody who carves them, and I said, I don't know anybody now, but my walking stick was hand carved in 1977 for me specifically, and the person who did it was a friend of mine, so I can tell you what she used to do and what she took pride in. So I told her the story about Ruth, my friend from long ago, and she got inspired and started writing, so I guess, okay, we're on the right track, honey. And for her, it's her third book she's working on. Very different from my third book. It's just funny that both of us are working on our third end of our trilogies this year. Alright, so let's save all this so I don't have to have this sitting around. I don't know how well you can see this. There's just a little bit of pigment on the edges, but you see it adds up in it's like confetti. And like I said, it's an art supply. It's a very cool little way to save your materials and not take them for granted. So you have to remember that a lot of our pigments are actually mined in the same way that other things are mined and then processed, and that all takes a toll on the environment and the prices of these things. So if you can stretch your materials without depriving your art, it's going to work out better for you and the planet in the long run. This has hardly any. Nope, but that one's got a lot. Any more? Oh, magenta. Come here, you. Now some of these, it doesn't look like much, but when you hit it with water, you realize that that little teeny crumb actually goes quite a long way on a piece of paper. Oh, this beautiful light blue. Hello, darling. Jessica, all right. Good morning. I fare thee well. I fare well. I am well. What kind of YouTube workout did you do? I have to find a Tai Chi one that my community can do. And good for you, by the way, because boy, I definitely lack motivation in that area. And Charlie, darling, how has your week been? All right, I'd like to hear that. full of the things. I've got tea in the making. Mixed cardio. Cool. Very smart. How long a workout? Is this something that you do every day? That's not pigment. That's a leaf. Oh yeah, I don't use any. I do have 2-pound bells, but I don't use them much. Way to go. Oh, that's great. 35 minutes is a very good workout. That's about how long our community workouts are. 30, 35. And we go by YouTube. We have a dance one. Actually, they're both made for people who are mostly sitting or have to sit. Like we have wheelchair people that come to it, and they do what they can, you know. I had to stop going because I really love working out with music. But when I do it my way, I don't hurt myself. If I do it to try and mimic their stuff with the upper body, I hurt myself. So I don't go to those things anymore. I just put on the music and dance around here. Wonderful. 35 for you too. So Charlie, are you doing it with a YouTube instruction thing, or like I go to the ones for people over 50, and there's a guy I really love in Australia that he gives really good instructions. And after that fiasco of me going to New York City and not being able to walk because my hip went out, and that ruined my last day because I couldn't go to the museum before I left the city. When I got back, I found the problem with his videos, and it wasn't my hip. It was a weak muscle, and it's like, no wonder I was in so much pain. It's exactly what and I started working out to strengthen that. Oh, see, I've been taken out of, I haven't had gym since 7th grade. When they discovered my back issue, they would not let me participate in any way, shape, or form because a surgeon said, no weights. I'm always being told, no this, no that. It's like, yeah. But now I know much better what I can do with my body, and it changes every day. That's great. 2 weeks? Yeah. I'm happy for you. The stronger you can make your heart, the better off you will be. Yeah, they're great, right? There's a bunch of people that are really good with the over 50. But then they brought in this program, an experimental program, senior services. I'm not sure. I have to look it up again. They created this bingo size where twice a week you play bingo and exercise at the same time. I went to the introduction and did the first one, and it was like, this is insulting to my intelligence. Also, she said a couple things that were absolutely false about our physiology. It's like, I could teach better than this, A, because I know more science than this person does. But in all fairness, I work out even minimally. Mine is way beyond what they're doing in that class. It's like, this is boring. It's really, really boring. Excellent. For both of you. Yeah, see, I have to stop I have the COPD, you know, I've got the lung issues, etc., etc. So I'm supposed to force myself into a half an hour of walking every day. I managed to get that anyway, but not the way they really recommend. It's progressive walking to improve your veins. And, well, I'm certainly not going out there now because I can't breathe if it's under 40 degrees. Asthma attack. So, yeah. And Charlie, I'm so glad you're making your own lunch. Hey, there are some very simple things to use in the kitchen that can supply you with some good food and fast. So when you start learning some of those recipes, you'll see how cheap it is to eat healthy. I'm really aggravated about my phone not taking videos for YouTube in the kitchen because I want to show you some of the stuff that I have been figuring out and trying. Carmen's here? Hi, Carmen. Oh, I'm happy for you. So is she moving here for good up here? Where did I put it? Oh, right there. Put things on top of it, on top of it, and on top of it. And I would invite you to our coloring circle, but it's not allowed. It's a resident only thing. I mean, I can have company, but I can tell you already that if I brought people from the outside to join the inside circle, I would be persona non grata, at least for a week. She got it very early. Wonderful. How was her trip? I mean, this is crappy weather for traveling. Charlie, plain flour, water, and salt make bread. Well, water. Flour, water, salt, yeast. But even if you don't have yeast, you can make tortillas. Well, she's here now and she can rest from that trip. How many hours did it take her? I know it took me 9 hours just to get up from York, Pennsylvania. I was driving a 10 by 10, what do you call it, U-Haul. They're pretty good. They're automatic. If you want, you can play DVDs in them. They're pretty good on gas, actually. And I have considered more than once renting one just for the day for $20 and using it like a car, because I'm pretty good with big vehicles. 16 hours with stops. You gotta make stops. You have to keep yourself loose and caffeinated. The weather was perfect for my journey up here, but it was hard. It was a hard move this time. I'm glad that's over. Oh, check out my new hobby. Okay, I haven't started it yet, but I have to show you because it's so cute. I think I mentioned that I wanted to try felting, right? Well, I had that in my mind for years and years, actually, more than 10 years, but I never had the opportunity to sit up for it. And finally it was like, you know, it's not a bad thing. I've got the wool. I can learn some basics while I'm on my own. And I took some wool out from my spinning yarn, and I thought, this is so slow, what a pain in the ass. But before I got to the this is a pain in the ass part, one of my friends went and took a class and felted a little penguin. And I did not want to go to that class that day. I didn't even know it was around. They said, well, maybe you can get in, just call. And it's like, I don't want to spend $20 the last minute and get ready to go now. No, forget it. I'm just going to chill. Well, my friend went and bought me, when I said how much I would have loved to try, I said, well, I'm going to get some felting stuff so you can tell me how to do it. Of course, I don't rely on humans. I go to YouTube. They're humans. So she got me this gift. Would I have ever bought this for myself? No. But the person who got this for me is such a sweetheart. I have no chance. I have to do it now. I can't give it away because everybody knows she gave this to me. And they even know what pattern it is. The zigzag thing? This thing? This is, I have one of those cheap dollar store super thin tablecloths. And this is a butcher block table that I don't want to completely destroy because I've already stained it with paint. This is actually a piece of plastic that came in a frame. The frame was cracked and I couldn't use it. So I took the plastic out, which is supposed to be like glass, and it's covered in the protective material, which I did not peel off, so that as I go on and destroy it, I can peel it off and I've got a clean surface again. Yeah, so this is taped on. It's just what used to be inside a frame. I've got another one here. Only I peeled all the front and back off it. But you see how they get, I do this so that I can use my X-Acto knife on it and not care if I destroy this, because it's basically free. Once the frame is broken, you know, I'm not going to throw it all away. I save everything I can out of it. So yes, I have an obligation. Check it out. But this is what's happened, okay? When I started looking into felting, I realized what I really want to do is wet felting. When I first thought about doing this, I thought of it like the way I observed when I did an Audubon show selling soap I made. I used to do these little shows, and the Audubon was raising money in, what state was it? Rhode Island. And they did this cool little show, and I participated. And right across from my booth was a woman who was felting little teeny weeny birds. And I'm watching her just, because when you're doing shows like that, you sit, and you don't even have anybody to talk to sometimes for hours. That's the reality of doing street shows and all that. People walk by, and then they walk by. Oh yes, Mr. Shiny. Well, if he replied on the 18th and you still haven't emailed him back. Don't get passive aggressive, Charlie. Well, that works. If you're busy or you don't have your thoughts together, then, as I said, I don't have time to write a short letter, because I can burble out a bunch of stuff, but then if I really want a good letter, I have to stop and edit it and make sure it makes sense and cut out superfluous crap, etc. So yes, a finely crafted letter takes time. Quick notes, I hate those, but sometimes I have to just let people know, I haven't forgotten you, I love you, I'm thinking of you, I'm just crazy busy right now. I don't have time to write a real letter, but okay, I'm just saying, don't hold off just because it took him a while to respond. You know what I'm getting at. But yeah, send a good email and take your time. That's the problem with email. People started to see it as they needed to have an answer immediately, because it makes you feel like it's got to be immediately, instead of taking time to think about what you're writing. It does matter. Well, spend some time on it and decide when you want to cut it off or if you want to continue. But remember that if you sit there too long with it, it becomes too far past tense, and you'll need to catch up from that. Now, you're not old enough to remember, Charlie, because you were born into the computing world, where I remember it very well when we got internet for the first time, and the dial-up modems from hell, etc., etc. But when they first started that with the instant messages, AOL had an instant messenger, ICQ started that, an Israeli program. The technology that went into ICQ was sold and became other people's chat, real-time chat bots. A lot of our current technology actually came out of Israel, their digital stuff. But there was always, and at first, it was this urgent feeling. Like when I was working on the first Nomaris, I'd be into it, but I don't type blindly. I have to look at the keyboard. So more than once, my sisters who had the AOL Messenger, which I had to get so that I could talk with my sisters and my best friend, I'd be typing and then I'd look up and I realized their chat box had popped up, and instead of typing in Nomaris, I was typing in their chat box, which of course would make no sense to them. And also I didn't want to share my book in the middle of a paragraph, you know? And it just became extremely aggravating because I had to close the program completely when I worked because there was no way to avoid it. There was always somebody who wanted to say something to me, and if you're creating, that's annoying. It's detrimental to the process. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I saw two others, the way they lay out. This is very well done, I have to say. Right from the start, it tells you what's in your supply list. It shows you the green, which you have the most of, how to divide it up, because you're creating these little petal things. It shows you how to do one, which color you use, and then it has actual templates. This is the size you're aiming for, so we can hold it right there. So you work your little petals together, or in this case actually they're leaves, and then you get them all together, and then you use some thread, which I will choose a better color because I've got lots, to sew them all together up the center and create what looks like a little plant. And then it has this very nicely done block of wood to stick it in. Now, to be completely honest, the last thing I would have ever purchased is one of these things, because what can I do with it? I mean, it's good practice. I don't mind that at all. When I thought about doing this again, I was thinking, like, instead of doing coloring, when I go down to the creative circle, I could do this, because it's just a little wool and a needle. And I thought, that's perfect. I don't have to take all my coloring stuff. But then, like I said, I discovered wet felting, which is a bigger pain in the ass. It is very wet and soapy, and you can't do that at the creative table because there's not enough room. In fact, there's not enough room for me to do that here unless I do something like this big, which is, I'm going to start very small. But let me show you what I got. And also, this is how I learned how to buy things from Walmart online if you want to save money. Everything is being controlled by AI right now. If you haven't figured that out yet, you will soon. The pricing, all of that, all algorithms that tell them what to charge, even if it's ripping you off, they don't care. Nobody cares. I figured out Amazon the way to get your best prices at Amazon. I'm not recommending buying from Amazon, but if you're forced to, which occasionally I haven't in over a year and a half now, but there's one item that the only place I've been able to find it is Amazon. So I don't know, I may have to go through them one more time. But if you want something from Amazon or Walmart, the big way to get your lowest price is to pick out something that you really want and don't settle for it right away. Don't buy it right away. Put it on a wish list, or just like in Walmart, you don't have to put it on any list. Just go and check it out. Like when I was looking at Faraday bags, the more I looked and compared, the lower prices were coming up until I finally found a really good price of, I think, $25 for a set of Faraday bags. Enough to cover my phone, my pad, and my laptop, which is, whoa, I don't even travel with those, but it's good to know. Then I did the same thing with looking for felting materials. So I went to Walmart online, just doing some comparison shopping to see what they have, if they had anything. Because I went to Michael's, and Michael's had the same kind of thing, little sets. I got a little set of the needles for felting, and they're nothing close to what I need. They're so tiny. It's like, so, now that I see what they were supposed to look like, do I really want to mess with those little ones? But I went looking, and my friend who got me this said, oh, well, the supplies for felting are so expensive. And I'm like, let's go take a look. I ended up with a set for $15. But it was something that ended up half price from what the original quote was. I'm going to go get that because you've got to see this. It's too cute. I'm going to say, I will show it to you, but it seems like I've already misplaced the entire set. Hello? Where would you put it? You silly person. Okay, well, I can't believe I did that. I have it here, but it's in a plastic bag, and apparently it's fitting in with the rest of my things here. I am so efficient, I have packed it away somewhere. No, you've got to see the deal. It's so cool. And ridiculous. Okay. Well, I have outsmarted myself. Oh, it's right behind me. I left it right there so I could show it to you. Behind me. Instead, I went and found my original. Okay, check this out. If you're going to do wet felting, you need some bubble wrap. The needles I got was this little set. And these are obviously, they're very tiny needles. This is wool. But this wool is wool that I bought for spinning yarn. But it turns out like, oh look, you know, I've got a lot here. This is enough for making actually a rather large project. But this is what I got for 15 bucks. Not those. This is a set. The cheapest price originally was $32, $35, something like that. And what I did was I sat there and I looked at it and I read the details, and that's part of what the algorithm is looking for. How deep is your interest? So look at some stuff, and it doesn't matter what the object is. If you're doing it on Amazon, if you really are interested, and you found what you really want, put it in your wish list and don't buy it right away. It won't take long before you get an offer in your email to buy that item at a certain percentage off. and you can go back and look at it again and don't buy it. You will end up with the rock bottom price that someone's willing to sell that for, because they'll start offering other people offering the same product at a lower price. So do not pay the first price you're shown. So this is what I got: a bag with this. This is a very good little kit. Now, I know if you wanted to just buy this little plastic box with this box by itself would be at least $5. It has something I don't know how to use yet. I don't know what that is. I've seen something like that, so I'm not touching it until I know. Here is a little snipper. Ow. Don't cut yourself. It's basically your little scissors for trimming your wool. Here is a real needle, something you can actually hold, and a bunch of other needles in different sizes. The needles for felting are triangular shaped with barbs on them. They're nothing like a regular sewing needle. And finger protectors. The first thing everybody told me was, be careful of your fingers because you're gonna, I pierced myself twice. I said, yeah, I know what I'll do. Finger protectors. These are actual leather, I believe. Yeah, they are. I don't think it's gonna be easy for a needle to poke through one of these. These I saw on sale alone for as much as this thing cost. Here's the fun part. Okay, we got a piece of styrofoam we poke on. I saved the other styrofoam because, like I said, for wet felting, I need bubble wrap. They're so cute. These are templates for felting. So you can fit your little bits of felt in there to make everything match the right size. So basically you stick your felt in there and just poke the hell out of it. You can make your little shapes. And what's really cute is that these things themselves are felted. They're felt. They've been cut out of felt. The drawback is that you don't get written instruction, but guess what? YouTube video teaching. So you can scan your little mark here and get hooked up with some lessons on how to make your little animals adorable. But this is what I got it for. This is the prize. And there is no way I could have gotten all of these on their own for $15. It doesn't look like very much, but when you are doing felting, a little teeny bit really does go a long way. So if I wanted to paint a picture in felt, I've got more than enough. So look at all these beautiful colors. I can make pretty much anything I can imagine at the moment, which at the moment is not very much. Now I want wet felting because of what I can do with it is so much more exciting than strictly pin felting. Now, why all the felting stuff? Because, as I've already told you before, I'm working on my third novel. Now, my novels, all of them take place, majority of them take place on my planet, Nomaris. Well, I've been populating my planet with beings, creatures, bugs, plants, seeds, foods, all that stuff, so that when you go to Nomaris, it is a populated planet. And everything, they're not industrial, they're agrarian, and they also do all kinds of crafts that are practical. Felting, knitting, crocheting, pottery, mosaic, all of this stuff, rope making, yarn making, all the things that we have survived on in our entire existence as humans you'll see on Namaris, except for mining and machinery made out of metal. Now they do end up with some metal because of an invasion of Skargans that happened in the first book. So they do have things that they have utilized that were abandoned on Namaris, but they don't manufacture those things themselves. So as I've gone through the stories, I've looked for things to show how the people are self-sufficient. And I was looking for, well, okay, we've already got weavers, we've got the fabric, and we've got the plants that they use for a specific fabric. I mean, things that were details in the first book. And then I started thinking further out. It's like, we used to felt our hats, we used to felt vests, mittens, slippers. Felted material is not uncommon. It's just like fallen out of not favor, but it's just become disused because people are buying things already manufactured. But if you know how to make your own stuff, you're not as threatened by the loss of a manufacturing company. You go, you know what, I think I can do that. And so I'm trying to encourage, in all my books, I'm trying to encourage people to look at what they can do to make their lives better, sweeter, more creative, and not as threatened as some people get, and we become completely dependent on a system that we don't control. So when you are able to do a craft like knitting your own shirt, your own sweater, or felting your own cape, a lot of things are made with felt. Amazing costumes are made with felt. As people go, what is felt? It's like, ah. So I will be demonstrating, like I always do, demonstrating how it's done in my book. Not to teach people how to do it specifically, but because we're going to be observing people doing these things. And one of my characters who does not belong on Namaris in the third story, they need to find something for him to do because he's been transported from Britain and he's an accountant, and there's no job for him on Namaris. So they start introducing him to different things around the island to see what he might become good at. So that's where things like this are going to come in handy, where he gets to be taken to different areas of the island where the people do different things to see what he has an affinity for. He's a descendant of a potter. So it's going to be fun as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to try and make it as fun as possible for anybody reading it. And also, like, when you are done reading it, I want people to come away going, I think I'd like to try that or check that out, or maybe they'll go look it up and they'll say, I didn't realize that was something that's been around for centuries. Now remember the term the Mad Hatter. That was when people were doing felting. They were using mercury with bare hands in fixing the fabric, which we're not going to be doing. So that's what's behind all my trying different things. It's not just curiosity or I've wanted to try something for a long time, like I said, needle felting. But the whole independent mindset that I've had for a good part of my life, it's reflected in my books. So, and you know, I'm always encouraging you to learn something new, try something different. Also, there's just a great amount of pleasure you get when you realize that you can do something. You're not as helpless as you may have been programmed to believe. Our world would like helplessness to be a daily factor, because if you're helpless, that makes you dependent, and you have to buy into the system whether you like it or not because you're reliant on it. That's why I say living in a city is like living in a death trap, because all it takes to kill a city is cut off the water supply, cut off the trucks that bring the food in. There are more people in cities that are active in creating rooftop gardens and vertical gardens, things that they can grow food on, so, and also capture rainwater so that they're not as dependent on mechanics of bringing those things in. So I think it's really exciting to challenge ourselves to see what could we do under different circumstances. So I'm in a good position at the moment, but I'm also aware that because of our current government, my stability can be ripped away overnight, and I could find myself going, I've got 30 days to find a new place to live. What am I going to do now? So, you know, life can always be, if you really want to examine it, a bit tenuous. We never know when we're going to go home and end our adventure here. So I'm glad, like with you, Charlie, you're learning to grasp the moment. Take more control about your everything, your body, your environment. These are things that we can exert control over. I cannot wave my magic wand, and I do have one. I can't wave my magic wand and change, like, the mental machinations of our president. I cannot control that. But my response to the things going on, I can control. Once I get past the initial reaction of horror. You'll do it. But Charlie, never force it. And you'll edit it later, okay? That's a good letter. The first letter that you write is one, the stream of consciousness, let it all fall out, and then you go back and you tighten it up. That's the best letter. Otherwise it starts to sound fabricated or disingenuous, you know? So let it flow. I saw another writer on Blue Sky talking about he was getting upset because he's writing a lot, and that's upsetting him because he feels like he has to publish something before he goes on and writes more stuff. And I'm like, why don't you just enjoy the flow? Get into it. Don't worry about the other part. That'll come later. I know, Jessica. I know. So do I. But one of the reasons I want to get us together is to talk about what we can do, which is, it sounds so outrageous that I don't say it all the time on the show because people just assume that I've gone off my cracker. And I've gone off my cracker enough to know when I'm not. So I know what I'm talking about, but if people are not caught up, then they are not going to, well, they're not caught up. I can't teach everything I know to people if they haven't already reached a certain understanding about energy. One of the things that I know and I've learned over the last few years is our ability to change things that are in a chaotic state. As long as they're chaotic, we can exert influence because they haven't settled. Once a chaotic pattern has settled into a pattern that's recognizable and predictable, you don't have as much influence. But while it is still in the formative stages, you can do amazing things. Oh, I've chosen to be. If you're here on this planet right now and you have eyes that you can open, you have chosen to be. The not to be is when we're done with the adventure. Love harmony. Hey, has the volcano stopped spitting up rocks or what? And this paper bubbled up. I will never give up hope. I'm not afraid. I know bad shit is happening. I know bad shit can happen. And like I said, I know that my life can be extremely precarious if the government gets insane, more insane than it already has. But that's not making me scared. It's making me angry. And I'm using that anger to keep moving forward. I will not be cowed. And, you know, I've had to deal with so many different things growing up that I just don't see things the same way as some people. But anybody who's grown up like I have, they understand completely. I was one of those adults and a child. When I was 6, I became an adult. Not, of course, we know 6-year-olds are not actually adults, but I became my mother's mother. And yeah, that's a lot of responsibility for a child, but it trains you to think in certain ways. And it's definitely a disadvantage, but once you recognize it and you understand what's going on, you can change your patterns and improve it and learn how to be happy. Learn how to get your kid back. So it's predictable, given my past, that I would be more angry and also determined than frightened by assholes. It's only shooting out molten lava. Well, eek. I think it's one of those precarious systems I would not want to live with. I really loved Hawaii. I wish I could have stayed longer. I wish I could have explored more. Actually, I wish I could have moved there. But in retrospect, I realized that I would not be happy on an island. Not even if I owned it. I'm a mountain woman. I'm a woods woman. I'm a lake person. I would choose lakes, mountains, and fog before I would choose the beach. And I'd love the beach. I don't unlove all these other things. It's just my preference is to be where I'm at. All this environment. Like I said, if I had money, I would be even more isolated, surrounded by woods. Nevertheless, I would want to be able to come out of those woods when I felt like it. Houses. Oh, yes, I remember. That's why people keep getting in danger. They're so cheap, the poor go there, and then the poor are the first ones that lose their homes. Again. Today I heard something very encouraging from a farmer, a cattle farmer. Now, I'm not a big beef eater, but what he was pointing out was all the corruption in the beef industry and how the farmers have all been going out of business because of the corruption of the beef industry, the biggest one being Tyson. I don't buy any Tyson foods anymore because I know what they are. I don't trust their practices in general anymore. But the problem is that all of these conglomerates are conglomerates, they're monopolies, and they are dictating the crap that's going into our food supply, which is why we need to be more aware of what we're getting, what we really need, and what we can do about it. So this farmer, this beef guy, he is out there saying to the lawmakers that we need to break up these monopolies. We need to stop the destruction of our farms and the consolidation of power and money in the hands of a few who are limiting the markets of the farmers and basically screwing them and setting the market prices. So I recommend to everybody, no matter what you eat, see if you can find a farm. See if you can find a farm nearby that you can actually go to and buy from. Like in Rhode Island, there was a poultry farm. It was the only place I would buy my chicken and turkey because they grew them right there. They raised them. I trusted them. Their place was super clean. They only sold a few extra things like eggs and pasta and pasta sauces, and some, when they had gardens, they also sold the stuff from their gardens. I could go there and get fresh lettuce and oregano, things like that. So look around and see who's around you. I lived in a very residential area when I discovered this poultry farm was literally around the corner from me. I mean, it was just enough that I had to drive because I wasn't going to go walk home with a whole bunch of chicken, but it was like around the corner, and in a residential area where you didn't realize there was a farm there because all you could see were the houses that lined the road and the little businesses and the bakery and all that. It's like, that driveway leads to a farm. Holy shit. So we need to look at that. I went shopping last week at a place on the 32. You might know it, Jessica. BFF. It was my first time there. I'll go back there because their pesto, the basil pesto that they're selling, imported from Italy, way surpasses the crap from the regular grocery store. And it's a bigger jar. It's 50 cents more than the cheap commercial brand. And for only 50 cents more, you get an ounce and a half more. Plus, it's like, oh, this is really basil with cashews and pine nuts. Whereas the commercial one has 0 nuts and not as much basil. Yeah, no fire volcano. Yeah, I know that. Well, it's the same thing down in Florida. You cannot get hurricane insurance. You cannot get flood insurance. The prices are through the roof. Oh, another thing that popped up today. You know why I keep saying put your phone in a Faraday bag before you leave your house? The minute you take that your phone out of the Faraday bag, you ping. Meaning, people you don't know where you are exactly, because they can ping off your phone. That's one of the tricks that ICE is using. They're using other people's phones without their knowledge because they connect to Wi-Fi, they connect to the internet, and they can do it through you. So if you go out there, if you put your phone in a Faraday bag before you leave the house, it will not see you leave the house. As far as the world knows, you're still at home. Problem is that when your phone is in the Faraday bag, you cannot get phone calls or make phone calls. No signal. That's the idea, no signal. Well, if you like basil pesto, they have a good one there. But I was very disappointed when I saw the bags of chicken. It was like, oh, when I used to go to the poultry farm, that's how I went home. They put them in plastic bags and I carried them home and wrapped them for the freezer. And I thought it might be the same, but then something in me said, is this local? Is your fresh meats in bags, are they from local farms? They're not. So that just means that they are buying large bags of chicken parts and dividing them into smaller bags, but you don't know the source of that chicken and the way it's presented. It's very easy to assume it came from a local farm. So it's good to know that before you go and go crazy, because for all I know, they have Tyson or Pilgrim's Pride or something that's really not recommended if you want healthy chickens. So I was disappointed about that. But they did have some organic stuff, and they did have a few things that are kind of hard to come by. And I didn't think the prices were overshot. I got some really good zucchini from there. A couple of organic oranges. I didn't go too crazy because I was already fairly well stocked, and I've been making sure I don't run out of anything except for my dairy, which I have to replace. But I've got it. The Nazi, the clan, it was the clan daddy, and well, I guess both of them, clan mama and daddy, yeah, they made a baby named Donald, all right? Fuck him. Oh, gotta watch that. Apparently now we can get frozen out of YouTube if we say the word fuck. So I hear. However, I have heard plenty of people use those words, so I don't know. But I will try and become more G-rated, like I was 18 years ago, when I knew young people were sneaking into my streams. Because I do have this marked as 18 and older, because I talk about mature topics sometimes, like politics, and also I can sometimes swear like a sailor. So you were forewarned. I want to say, would you kiss your mother with that mouth? And I go, no, I would not. But then again, I probably wouldn't kiss her at all. Google gods. Oh, well, you know what? I did a search a while back, and I used one of the chat things, and it gave me incorrect answers. Political incorrect answers. It took something, because it turns out what they do is the most posted stuff is what they draw from. I corrected Gemini and I said, you're wrong. This is completely false information. Why did you show it to me? And it had to explain where it got its information from. And it was pulling from the far right websites because those people go insane with their posts. So it took the nearest, easiest answer. That's your chat GPI, all of that stuff. They're pulling from whatever is basically resonating at the moment. It doesn't mean it's true. So when I saw that, I already knew, because I'm not in that far right bubble, I knew all of this stuff was false, and that's why I had to call Google on it. It's like, this is bullshit. Why did you give me this answer? Explain. And I made it explain. Oh, good. Then we get along just fine. I know. I do adjust it more in public. I forget myself sometimes on here because I talk to you just like we're sitting in the same room. But when I'm out in public, I am very conscious of my mouth, especially like after 17 years of living in the very, very rural South, where women don't cuss and men don't cuss in front of the women. I was surprised at how easily shocked the pearl clutching if you say shit. I was really shocked because, like, you're an adult. Haven't you heard that word before? Okay, my darling. I wish you love and exercise and good food. Look up making your own tortillas, if I didn't already send you a recipe. Makes a quick wrap for anything else you can find in the kitchen. Flour, water, salt. Pour in a hot pan. Boom. Bread. You don't even have to measure it. It's too early to sing to you tonight, so I'm just going to give you a bunch of love. Oops, I accidentally sent you my sinus problem. Have a wonderful week ahead. I will be back on and off throughout the week, but definitely next Sunday. You can always count on that. So long as I'm alive and I have internet, I'll see you here. And I'm working on projects that I need to finish. I only have one more drawing to do, but I said I'm going to grow some sprouts, take some pictures so I get the lighting through the glass right and all that. That's what she needs, that, and she's already said yes to this one, so she's happy with that. And I'm going to throw in this one, which I'm going to surprise her with, but I'm sure she can use that tiny thing in there. Yes, I made rice crackers with leftover rice. I had like a cup of leftover cooked rice, took it out of the fridge, the immersion blender, turned it into paste, added water to thin it down. Then I also ground up some coconut, unsweetened coconut. I probably used, I'm going to say 1 cup of rice to a half a cup of desiccated coconut. Mix that in, just enough water to thin it out. What else did I throw in that? That was it. It was just the ground up rice and the ground up coconut. And you couldn't really taste it coconutty. It just tasted good. And I had sesame seeds. So I made spoonfuls of it and dropped them into sesame seeds and then put them on the cookie sheet and then flattened them all out. For 1 cup of rice, I got enough to fill like a box of crackers. Plenty. And they were really, really good. The sesame, the coconut, the rice together, they were light as air and still crunchy and, yeah, really good. I'm going to make them again for sure. Oh, okay, you fried it. All right. I did mine on a baking sheet and baked them. That's where I send people clips on Facebook. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Our stuff is being intercepted that way. Facebook is totally, no. That's why I'm not using Facebook. I'm not sending anything to people on Facebook. I've deleted almost every friend. Most of the people that are on Facebook right now are either, they won't understand that if I delete them, even though I tell them I'm not deleting you as a friend, I am just taking you off Facebook so that you cannot be targeted with their advertising. Most of the people on my Facebook friends list are dead. So I have to go back and keep eliminating them. Like I said, there are some that won't get it. So they're still there. But I don't talk to anybody except for you and Gary and my friend Ruth through Messenger, because they don't have a whole bunch of options, I guess. And I just don't use them. Let me blend my little bit. I don't do a blender, but I got the immersion blender, same deal. Yeah, that sounds great. The only reason it's not completely deleted is because my SimCity game is attached to it. And everybody I spoke with at EA said I can't change it. I can change to a different Facebook page, but it still leads back to me. I can't put it on any other server because it was established originally through Facebook, which I didn't even realize at the time. So that's why Facebook still exists at all. But my profile is black. My banner is black with 2 green orbs in the night. And those 2 orbs I photographed myself. That's it. And occasionally I will post something political, basically telling some truth about Facebook or Amazon. And I will put that up on there and I just leave it. I don't expect anybody to comment. It's more for the Internet Archive, because Internet's forever. unless they take it down personally, it'll be there. And since I'm not doing any activity or making waves on Facebook, my account should just exist in kind of a limbo. But that's it. No interactions, no comments, no visiting people's pages. It's like, I'm sorry if you're on Facebook and that's where you're posting your photos, but if you want me to see your photos, you're going to have to email them to me, because I'm only going to look at photos from people who are close enough to know my email. I deleted, well, I had Amazon Prime for years, and I got rid of that. And the only reason I go to Amazon at all now is because I have a bunch of streaming. I own like all 12 seasons of The Big Bang Theory. I don't have TV, so if I want to see The Big Bang Theory or the first 7 seasons of Bewitched or whatever, I own those, and they're housed on Amazon. So that's the only reason I go to Amazon anymore. It's not because I'm going to buy anything, or it's just those are where my movies are. And since I can't use the DVDs, because since Windows 11 came on, everything's been wonky for me. I'm fine going there just for that, but I own them. And I don't know if, I mean, I can download only so much to the Kindle. I can't download my entire movie library because I've got, well, not as an impressive a library as most people, but I've got an impressive enough space-wise library that I can't just delete it. So, or just download rather. Now, we have to stop paying the oligarchs to kill us. A whole bunch of other things came out, like a sheriff in Florida is incensed that they can't get the records from Flock. You know, the cameras that are spying on us everywhere we go, 44,000 of them across the country, watching our every move, plus Ring, through the Ring cameras. They've got the contract with it. They're all reporting to Palantir. We're being observed because they are looking to create, through AI, patterns for everybody's behaviors so they can predict who is going to commit a crime. Do you know how insane that is? That is completely fucking off the wall crazy. So, yeah, they refuse to answer the Freedom of Information Act. We've got all these, well, we know what else is going on. I'm not going to talk about now because I don't want to raise my own hackles. But we know that there's a lot of illegal stuff going on. Our privacy is being taken away, and that's why I've been saying now for months, get a Faraday bag for your phone and do not leave the house with your phone out of it. And remember that when you take it out, they spot you right there. You ping immediately. They're going to know right where you are. You can be picked up by satellite. And they're weaponizing everything. They know it's happening. They know they're killing us and that we're fighting back now, and that's what they're afraid of. Not all that long ago at Davos, one of the conversations among the mega rich was how to control us when we start to rebel. They were actually talking about not even being able to trust their hired security, their bodyguards. They were talking about creating collars, like in that episode of Star Trek. Collars that they could use to inflict pain, like dog collars, to prevent them from attacking their bosses. That's how paranoid they are. That's how much they know they're setting up the people to rebel, because they've been crushing our spirits, crushing our bank accounts, starving us. They've been doing it to black people for 200 years. It's about time it happened to some white people, so they fight back for everybody. So I'm not unhappy, as I may sound. That's from a Tom Cruise movie. What's that? I have not seen a single Tom Cruise movie that I can think of. You'll have to inform me. I have nothing against him. It's just also no interest. Minority Report. Oh, no, I did not see it. I heard that was a good movie. I said, I have not been to the theater to see a movie since Batman met Catwoman. So that was, oh my God, late 80s? Stopping crime before it's committed. Wow. So was it the same kind of a thing where they were spying on everybody to look for patterns? I don't know the plot of the movie. Jess, have you seen it? Yeah, the other day at the coloring circle, this lovely woman said something. She had no clue how offensive she was when she said it. No clue. And she suffers from a lot of anxiety, so I'm not jumping on her, especially when people are this age. It's like, just give up. Big machine that knows everything. Oh, kind of like iRobot with Will Smith. Oh, once this has been wet and dried, it doesn't really like to take up pigment. Try a little more. The machine predicts the crime. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do, exactly. They're using AI to track everybody on the fucking planet. That's what that the great golden, whatever, golden shield, all of that is about spying. That's all it is. It's not a golden shield. They just sold it to Trump because he'll like anything gold. That's all they have to do is dress it up in gold and he'll buy it. Well, he wants it for free. But the whole golden dome thing is bullshit. It is a spy network with satellites already up there Thank you, Musk and Peter Thiel. All these things are spying on us already. And everybody here was freaking out when they heard China was doing that. All right, China's got such incredible face recognition. It can pick out a face from the crowd and find them. So, yes, instead of us going, oh, we've allowed it here. That's what those flock cameras are all about. It's tracking every move you make, every street you walk or drive down. It's watching you so they can track you. That's why, yes, you'll still be on visual. All right, if you're driving or walking down the street and you go by a camera and they're picking you up, but you'll be less noticed if you don't have a phone giving a signal. So don't let them find you two ways. Make it down to one. Have to find you by the way you look or what you're wearing. He gets set up on a crime. Oh, I see. So he has to prove that he didn't do the crime at the same time he shows who should be doing the time. Now, how tall is Tom Cruise? Sylvester Stallone is short? Really? I thought Sly Stone was, not Sly Stone, you know. Let me find out. Come on, phone. How tall are Sylvester Stallone and Tom Cruise? Stars lying about their height. Oh, Sylvester Stallone is the same as my father, 5'10". And Tom is 5'7¾". He almost made it to 5'8". How do they have to lie about that? Brad Pitt is 5'11". See, some of our most famous actors were not tall. They were short guys who were just good at what they did. Now, my first husband was somewhere between 5'10" and 11, I think. Definitely not 6 feet tall. But I was 5'2". I'm now 5'1". So that was good for me. Because when you think about it, when you want to kiss somebody, they shouldn't be that much taller than you. It gives you a neck ache. Husband number 2 was 6 foot or 6'1". I actually don't remember. It's like, if you want me to kiss you, sit down. Now, it's interesting how people judge themselves. Like, when you're a girl, all the emphasis when you're a female is when you grow your boobs. You can't wait to grow them, unless you're gay, I suppose. And I don't know, because although I've had friends who were lesbian, I never became one, and there were certain things we're just people. We never talked about certain things. You know, they knew I was straight, and I knew they weren't. So I never asked them questions about their sex life or things like that. Yeah, but that's not true, Maui. See, that's a made-up idea that height has something to do with how much of a hero somebody could be or how much of a leading man. When you consider Yul Brynner, Yul Brynner was about as macho as they came, at least appearing, and he was a short guy. He was not a tall dude, and he did those heavy-duty bald man westerns. Um, God, who is Shane? Come back, Shane. Whoever that actor was, I forget. He was a short guy. He was so short that they had to dig holes for his co-star females to stand in, so he looked taller than them. And other times they put him on a box to look taller than them. So, yeah, it's a fake thing that we keep putting people on those boxes, and nobody knows how tall they really are. Like, that's connected with their masculinity. It's as stupid as women being looked upon like, oh, big breasts means sexually active. My aunts, my step aunts, they went the range. My Aunt Alice was flat as a board. I mean, she had no boobs at all. She was fine. She looked like a string bean of a woman. But my stepmother and her sister had the opposite problem. They grew up very early on, gigunda, and because of that, they were tortured in school. They were called sluts and whores when they were virgins, just because they had the misfortune, in this case misfortune, uh, to have the genetics that grew big breasts. My nieces, same problem. They grew big like my grandma, but their mommy had nothing like my Aunt Alice. So watching them be tortured because they were too big, and then tortured by men who wanted to touch those big things, you know what I mean? It's always just, why do we do this to people? Oh, you're not tall enough to be a leading man, or your boobs aren't big enough to be an actress. We need bigger boobs. Yep, same thing with hair. Except, like I said, Yul Brynner, the King and I, man, he never had hair, and he was always gorgeous. Um, but yeah, definitely, they did the long flowing hero on horseback, right? What was that model's name? Fabio. Fabio. Model for romance novel covers. Romances that never happen in real life. Yeah, we do these weird things to people. The expectations that you have to be this way because you're that. It goes back to like, well, you're a female and you're allowed to do this, and you're a male and you're allowed to do that. And that's just short-sighted and stupid. It's conditioning. All of it's conditioning. And you know what? We were starting to get a grip on this in so many different ways. And then the morons that got put in charge of the administration are turning everything upside down, teaching lies as truths. I mean, it really is 1984 when you have somebody coming out and saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with eating a lot of beef. Matter of fact, beef should be your #1 food. It's like, who put money in your pocket, asshole? Beef should not be your #1 food. And I have nothing against beef specifically. I don't eat a lot of it because I don't want to kill that many cows. I also know that red meat is really hard on your veins and arteries. So when some moron is saying, yeah, keep eating a lot of beef, a lot of beef, a lot of eggs, a lot of whole fat milk and cheese, it's like, yeah, I think I'm going to limit that stuff. Oh yeah, because they were conditioned to, Maui. All of it is conditioning, all right? Because what we come to believe is attractive is not just natural inclinations towards things. We used to look at, or I say, the women who had the biggest butts and the biggest boobs and the most fat were the most desired because they looked like they could hold up to childbirth when childbearing meant death for many, many women. So they looked for women who were strong and hardy, right? Ones that could survive a rough winter. That's what they were looking for. That was the in thing for a long, long time. And then suddenly we start doing all this corseting and teeny waistlines and body ideas that are impossible without destroying our health. I mean, we ended up pushing all of these really, really strange ideas, and they really have no place in a healthy society. Okay. Well, actually, I should be going myself. It's 1 o'clock. I'm overdue to leave. It's time for me to make lunch. I will be back. Well, hi, Carmen. I'll wait a few minutes. You have a wonderful rest of the day. Carmen, is Carmen coloring today? Or is she too tired? Because I wouldn't blame her if she's too tired. Big Bet gotten out of hand in 2015. What happened in 2015? Wait a second. Doesn't seem. I love this thing. Yeah, this is a decompression day, right? You need to decompress. Take it slow, just relax. Everything will get done in its own time. I'm glad you've got your friend with you and a coloring partner. I expect to see some good stuff coming out. Big butt operation. Oh, you mean actual implants? Just enjoy your day. Sunday is a great day because nothing is open. You don't have to go shopping. And you can just take it slow as it comes. No pressure. Who needs more pressure after a move? Nobody. And Doc, I'm sad for the people who had implants to give themselves bigger butts. Because it's so ironic. Because the style became small butts. All right, big butts were normal in tribal situations where you had to survive on the land, and not like now, not in America. In America, you go to the grocery store if you're hungry. All right? Yes, there are people very rural that would have to go out back and find their food, but most people can go to a grocery store and get something. Nobody wanted big butts after a while, right? The Miss Universe, the Miss America, the hourglass figure. But now it's all bullshit. It's all fake. Fake tits, fake ass, fake calves, fake biceps, fake cheeks, fake lips. I mean, what the fuck? Sorry, YouTube. Yeah, she needs to chill. No pressure. No self-imposed pressure. That's where most of the pressure comes from anyway. I'm glad that, I mean, you're a logical person and a sensitive woman, and you're not going to, there is no pressure. You must be unpacked by tomorrow, or I can't stand seeing a suitcase. I hated that the same day I moved. Well, I was grateful because we had some fans from the show actually drive down from Vermont to unpack my truck, which had to be done because my blow-up bed was in the back of the truck. And I needed help getting that blow-up bed into the new bedroom so I could inflate it and go to sleep. That was my big chore, making sure I had a bed. And the next day was all those smaller things. But yeah, first thing I had to do was inflate my bed. I will let today be itself. I won't change anything. There you go. If you're going to change anything, it should only be in your mind. Let your mind, let it rise what you need to do next instead of being forced. You already know that there are things you have to check, like your garden. You have to take care of Cyrus. You've got to do the putter around the house for this or that. Those are things you have to do. Outside of that, there's nothing you have to do. You don't have to report anywhere. Yeah, I am here, do my job. Oh yeah, I'm retired. Goodbye. I make plans, I do. Because the night before I decide, tomorrow I want to see this in the world. I want to do this. But when I'm up, if some of those things don't go as planned, I don't get upset at all. I just let them flow. Like you said, you don't have to change anything. If I go to cook something and realize I'm out of an ingredient, I don't freak out. I pick a different recipe. We don't have to control everything. We do have to learn to be better to ourselves, be responsible to ourselves, make sure we eat properly and rest properly. Outside of that, what are we here for? We're here to learn how to be happy. We're not going to get happy if we keep putting made-up pressures. Like, I like my house to be clean, but the dust in this place is a nightmare. It would have driven my grandmother insane to see how much dust accumulates in one 24-hour period. So I know I can't clean this whole house in 24 hours. By the time I'm done with one bookshelf and I move to the second bookshelf, the first I can see the dust settling on it. So, do I really want to make myself crazy over dusting? No. I spread it out. I will do the floors every other day. Believe me, I get plenty of dust just every other day. If I go 3 days, I can see waves on the floor. So I do have those little responsibilities. But if I see dust on something, I'm not going to stop everything else I'm doing. Take care of that dust. I'm not going to be crazy about it. There's going to be more dust. There's always more dust. Matter of fact, that's one of the themes in my third book. There's always more. You can pick it up, get rid of it, change your path, but you're still going to have dust. It's everywhere, all the time. It's what we're made out of. All right, you know, I've got to find, I went to Michael's, and one of the things I did want to get was 1/2-inch masking tape, and I forgot to look while I was there. I got so excited about finding felting needles, I got distracted. So right now, the 3/4 inch, which I have, is the most common. So I made sure I bought an extra roll of that, the way I go through it. And I could find wider, which I also have. I bought 3-inch blue paper tape for my big canvas. But 1/2 inch, the last time I bought that actually was on Amazon. I bought 3 rolls of it, and it was really shitty tape. Now, this is extremely cheap paper tape because it doesn't stay for very long. I don't need it on long. I want it to be low tack so I don't tear up my paper when I remove it. But the biggest key to that is don't take tape off a wet piece of paper. All right, I think, even though I'll be writing a note, well, I guess I could write that way. Writing for Gloria and my stepfather both, they need large letters when I write a note to them. So I'm learning to spread things out. Of course, you can't say very much when you use huge letters, but they know I'm thinking of them anyway. I think we'll go like that. Now, when I used to work on really expensive watercolor paper, I had a special board just for watercolors, and everything got taped down. And with watercolor paper, the trick is, if you don't want it to stretch, you have to stretch it. Stretching watercolor means just taping it down, soaking the whole piece of paper, and then letting it dry. And once it's flat again, then you do it. That's stretching watercolor paper. I had a beautiful lightweight watercolor board. Actually, it wasn't made for watercolor, it was just made for drawing and drafting. But I ended up using it for watercolor because it was light enough to pick up and move the paint. And then I made a mistake, and instead of using a full sheet to cover the whole thing, I started getting more concerned about the price of my favorite paper, which even now is $50 a sheet. It's a nice size sheet, like 22 by 30 something. But it's like cardstock, it's very heavy. So I cut it up into smaller pieces and I taped them down, but then I discovered if the water gets onto the wood, it was not protected, and I actually warped my own very expensive board. So that was a hard lesson, but now I know. Only use waterproof surfaces when you're handling a lot of water. Just like doing felting. And with the felting, one of the things I wanted to try with wet felting was covering buttons, because it shrinks and it covers that button, and looks really cool. And it's like something nice you can use with fabric. Or I started collecting some of my big buttons to do that, and then I found a video where the woman made her wet felted material, so she ended up with like a slab of it, and then cut it up into these squares, sewed them together just like on a piece of thread, just so they're dangling like donuts, and then she washed them in the washing machine. And just being moved around in the washing machine shrunk, it felted it. It made them rounded and denser and done. They dried and they were like buttons. She just had to poke the buttonholes in them. It's like, that is such a great shortcut. Instead of sitting here and doing one at a time, just do the whole piece of felt. So anybody who really loves color and textiles, you might want to look into wet felting, with an awareness that although if you really get into it, it could run into some money because you'll use larger amounts of wool that's hand done. But it's an amazing craft. It's amazing, very practical. If you want to make your own clothing or hats or things like that, there are people online here on YouTube that are showing videos of making their own felted gloves and slippers. And I have to say, some of it's really funny. A woman has a template for making one of those floppy hats out of felt. Now, the last time I bought one of those was over $50, and it was also around 45, 50 years ago, because felting takes time. I loved my felt hats. That was the kind of my signature. Always had a felt and a feather. But the woman cuts out this big thing. It looks like a giant bell shape, like a cartoon hat. If you put it over your head, it'd be like you're gone. I could have disappeared my entire head underneath it. It's huge. But that's because felt shrinks when you felt it. All of the material you've accumulated and matted down, when you start hitting it with the warmer water, it starts pulling together and getting really strong. But as that's happening, it's shrinking. So here this woman made this little thing, or this big thing. Hello, Carmen. Yes, slippers. I saw a pattern. I mean, these things are hilarious because they look like they're cartoony. They're huge. I've got little feet. Well, average, I guess. I've got the slender, anyway, a size 7, 8. And this woman was doing her own slippers, and they looked like you were cartoon drawing Santa's boots. Gigantic, and you lay out both of them on your template, and that's the template you're going to be using all your material. And it's so neat how that's really done, because you make that template out of something like a super thin piece of, oh, you know, the styrofoam that you get like when you buy a new laptop, or you get a piece of furniture and they have a little thin layer of styrofoam between shelves, things like that for shipping. Just thin stuff, right? So you cut your template out, let's say a circle, because you want to make a pocketbook or a bowl. Bowl is really easy. So you make a circle template, you lay all of your wool on it in tufts and mush it down the way you're supposed to. But when it's all done, you just cut across the top and you pull the piece of foam out, and you've got a hollow thing. It's the same thing with the slippers. You felt the entire cartoony looking thing, you wrap it around, so you're doing both sides of that, and then at the end you cut the top off, and then you can start sizing it to your feet. And then when you start adding hot water in specific areas, it shrinks it, and you end up with something that's literally fitted to your body and nobody else's. Like, this is too cool. So I'm not going to be making those kinds of projects. I just need to learn the basics so that I can write about it as someone who knows what it's like to work with it. But when it comes to doing the larger things, I'll just look at the videos and watch them all the way through and see how they handle all of it. Also, there's this guy out in Oregon, Dragon Yarns, I think is his company. And he shows people about dyeing, crocheting, knitting. The guy is a master, and just so sweet and friendly. And he does these wonderful little videos to promote his shop and also the education about different yarns. I know, it is. It is so fun. So, you know, when, okay, like, I love this paper. It's from Japan. All right, it's a rice paper. And you see all these threads, the shiny threads in there? That's viscose or silk. Viscose can be used to replace silk. And when you use these threads, making a piece of paper is kind of like felting. So I would lay down the first fibers that made the sheet of paper, and then I'd come back with my viscose and drape it around and make a pattern or just a shiny spot. So after it's all felted together, you get this beautiful texture and well, accents. So if I was doing this color, I might go ahead and get a different blue or different green viscose threads to add to it. So there's so many cool things that we can make from scratch, but so many things have fallen by the wayside, which is one of the messages in my books. I'm not preaching in my books. They're stories. They're entertaining. But I teach as I'm writing, so I want people to get acquainted with the different skills that we can acquire. And when I lived on the farm, I did not grow all my food because I didn't have the ability to do that. I mean, my neighbors would plow acres for me. So if I needed a plow, well, I had a little one that I could use, but if I needed them to do like a whole acre, then it would be them coming in on a tractor. But still, it was, my husband did not want to participate any more than he absolutely had to when it came to the garden. So the only thing he wanted to grow was pot, all right? That was his thing. He grew the weed, and I grew every freaking thing else. But that also, when you grow something, as you know, Doc, it means harvesting and putting the food up. So I did the pickling, I did the harvesting, I did the drying, the dehydrating, I did it all. And I loved doing it. I'm not saying I was resentful. I really did enjoy every step of it. It would have been nice if I had a companion that was as into it as me. Because although I did appreciate him growing weed, it would have been a lot nicer to get his help with a bunch of other things. All right. Oh, he did mow the path from the house to the creek. So there were things that he did that I couldn't do. But most stuff he just didn't do. I put our own walkways in with bricks. I built the fire pits. I also took the fire pits apart and turned them into smokers when I was smoking fish, and then took them apart and made fire pits again. I love working with that kind of thing. Oh, by the way, if you're going to do that with brick, you don't use mortar. You stack them properly, and then you unstack them. So you can use them over and over again. So learning all those things has really helped because having an agrarian civilization on Amaris, I need to know what it's like. I have to know what it's like to live around cows and horses, black flies. Right? So you can love what you're doing, but yes, when you are tired and you still have to go out there and harvest or water or pick bugs off plants, it's nice if you got somebody to help, right? Well, I didn't. Occasionally, okay, like, all right, we had, oh God, probably 2 or 3 acres that were planted with just sweet potatoes one year. And that became a community thing. Everybody in the neighborhood was invited to come over with a bushel basket and help themselves take them. And the whole neighborhood profited from that one crop. And I learned that year how to put up sweet potatoes, because when you grow potatoes, you can't eat them right away. You need to cure them for a day or two in the sun. And then you take them out of the light, because you'll turn to, like white potatoes, you'll turn them green, and that makes them toxic. You can't eat a green potato, not even if you peel the skin. So you learn those kinds of things, and I really loved learning them. And I really love putting them in the book, because I can teach what I've learned without actually becoming a teacher of those things. I'm teaching by demonstrating how the people in my books are using these things or doing these things. I just like making sure I know how to do it before I talk about it. So that's why felting has now become a bigger deal. Instead of a hobby I'd like to try someday, it's now I need this skill for Nomaris, and I need to know what I'm talking about when I'm doing it. It's like you can talk about watercolor paints and paper and brushes, but until you actually pick it up and try it, a lot of it's just empty knowledge. You can't apply it. You need to try it. Like spinning yarn. I got that yarn for spinning. I've got a drop spindle, and it didn't take long to realize I don't really like doing this. I'd rather try doing it with a spinning wheel, which is much more forward to me, instead of having something dangling that you have to make sure is spinning right. I just never developed a hankering to do that. But I kept my wool and my drop spindle. So if I decide that I need to teach somebody how to do that because they need to learn, then I'll be able to teach them. It's just not something I want to pursue right now. I'd rather take that wool apart and make a project that I can use elsewhere in something else. I would love to have a pocketbook that's felted. Also, when you felt with a resist in the middle, what the first color you put down is going to be the inside of whatever you're making. So I watched somebody do I think they called it, oh, I can't remember. There was a name for it, but it was a vase, basically, a little bowl. And they used black first and started with a black matting. Like it was already matted, that they could just lay that down, and then they started putting their colors on it. It was beautiful. And then when she opened it all up as a bowl, you could see like the black was the inside of the bowl. But at that point, you can turn it inside out if you want. But why do all that beautiful color work and different kinds of threads, for accent, and then put them inside? But if you're doing a pocketbook or anything to carry around like that, you can remember, you can build on something else. I was thinking maybe I can get some, like, when we get our oranges or tangerines, they come in those mesh bags. I want to look into what if you use that in between layers to strengthen your felt if you're going to use it as a purse that has to hold weight. And then I saw somebody build a bag, gorgeous camel color bag. They used like leather straps that actually go under the bag to support it. And it's like, very clever. That made that felt thing not only look very sophisticated, but very high end. Homemade stuff always ends up, unless you're, oh God, I've done so many craft fairs. There are so many tables in a craft fair. I've learned to just walk right by. Just walk right by, because I'm just going to be annoyed. And those are the people that make things. They crochet little things with that bright, tacky looking, it's Christmas, we'll do green and white and red, everything, with cheap acrylic yarn that looks cheap. And they don't do things like finish them off where they're like squares or really square. They just look very grandma. Not skilled grandma, but beginning grandma. And I always found those things annoying. I remember going to a church bazaar where there was a ton of that stuff because the church bazaar was populated by mostly grandmas, and they knitted all of their Christmas ornaments and everything. And you know, you walk in and it's tables and tables of the same crap over and over. Not to put those people down. It was just when you see something that's very well crocheted or knitted, you see something that's well made versus hurry up and do this so I can sell it at the fair. Big difference. So now I go right for quality. I see something well made, that's right where I go. I'm willing to pay extra money, as long as I have it, for quality over quantity. If I want to crochet a Christmas tree ornament, I'll do it myself. But I am getting pickier and pickier as I get older. I want quality stuff because everywhere you go, it's the same shit. You know, I got a hoodie on Temu, and I did that in an off season. I bought something in summer from last winter's offerings. I just wanted a hoodie that wasn't a solid color like everywhere I look. Everybody's wearing the same gray or black hoodies. It's like, ugh, everybody looks the same. I found one that has a beautiful pattern on it, and it happens to match my tights. I wear a lot of green tights because I got a sale. I have 4 pairs of green tights, and I've got 3 pairs of gold tights, and a pair of black, and a pair of red. Everything but the red goes with my hoodie, and wherever I go with that hoodie, I get compliments because you don't see that hoodie hanging up in our stores. So I love having things nobody else has. But also it just has to look good. If I had gotten that and it looked like trash, I don't think I would get the compliments I get on it. But that's also the good part about buying things off season. You can wear in the following year. As adults, we're not likely to change sizes too drastically over the course of 1 year unless we get sick, right? So you can buy something off season for the coming up season and get a good deal financially, but also get something that not every Walmart is carrying. I do not like, and I realize that odds are I'm going to meet people wearing the same thing as me eventually, or a version thereof. Like this top. This is gigantic. It's got 2 big pockets in the front. It's made out of plastic. Basically, it's a fleece, and fleece is plastic, if you didn't know. It is so hot. It is so warm. It's so soft and fuzzy, and I have seen a bunch of these come out on the market. Oversized, kind of shapeless, lots of pockets, or no pockets. I would never wear this with no pockets. But also, because it's made out of plastic, it's too hot to wear with anything underneath it. So limited value, but everybody's got these now. I bought it online. I'm seeing them everywhere. I'd rather not run into myself too often. And so far, I mean, overall, I'm been pretty good at that, mostly because I don't buy much clothes these days. But when I do, I don't like to look like just everybody else. I don't understand why teenagers always wanted to look like their best friends, but I kind of get it. You want to match. I remember as a teenager, we used to call each other up, "What are you wearing to school today?" I'm wearing, "No, I don't have that. I don't have that color. Well, let's all wear blue today." It's like, okay. I really wasn't much into that, but if I had a best friend at the time, I did try to make sure that I kept pace with my best friend. Right now, my best friend she has gone from New England, where we met and we're best friends. She ended up going to Florida and getting married, having a kid, then her husband passed away. And now she's living in Tennessee because her daughter and her son-in-law would move there with the 2 grandkids, and she wants to stay close to the grandkids. So she gave up her house in Florida to follow them to Tennessee because he had to be relocated working for Amazon. And they give you a choice. Well, either you well, most people, they don't give a choice, but if you're high up enough, I guess in management, they give you a choice. Move with us or you're fired. And they moved. So she's not happy in Tennessee, but she's got a nice little house and she's happy with that. But it's not her environment. She's very much like me when it comes to, you know, wanting to see people have their rights. And we don't want to see icy things going on. So we, you know, we'll always be sisters that way. And she has invited me to move in with her and visit and all that other stuff. It's like, Tennessee, no, thank you. I lived in North Carolina for 17 years, very rural area. And I loved it to a point, but it's so rural and in so many ways so backward that I don't really want to hang out with those people. And she herself is a red dot in a blue state, and I mean, a blue dot in a red state. And she's not thrilled about that. But she keeps to herself, and her big thing is making sure she's with the grandkids. I get that. Now, I'm at a point in my life where everybody I care about lives quite a ways away from me. So it's something I've gotten used to. I look online 18 years. Most of my connections are in different countries or at least 3,000 miles away. So, you know, you get used to it. I did tell her yesterday, though, I would save up some money and see if I can make it down. Not right now, but yeah. I did love a lot of things about the South. And I met very progressive women there who were intelligent, well-read. Matter of fact, we met at the bookstore. They had two bookstores, one a normal one and one Christian. I did go into the Christian bookstore to see what they had, and it didn't take long to walk right back out. I lived there a year. Friends, I have to. It takes me a minute to read because there's a heart that I can't get rid of on my chat here, so I have to look at both things. I lived there a year and have friends that have a house there. They just the ones. Oh, you were in North Carolina or Tennessee? It is beautiful. The South has a lot of beauty. I have been across the country driving a few times, and from coast to coast. I moved to California, then we moved to North Carolina, moved to Rhode Island. I've been all over the country, but going through all the states, you get to see so many beautiful things. And like if you're going through New Mexico when the sun is going down and you get those twilight colors, oh my God, it is magical. It looks like an enchanted land with all blues and purples and pinks. It's just remarkable. Tennessee, yeah. Now, I got stuck in Knoxville during a blizzard. We were actually, it was right after my father's funeral in New York, and we were going down. We thought we were going to avoid the blizzard by going south before going across. We went right into it. We got to Knoxville, and my fan fell off and drilled itself into the radiator, so I lost all my radiator fluid and had to wait overnight for them to find a radiator to put into my car, which was not easy because it was a Toyota, an old Toyota, their fanciest one they ever made, and then they discontinued because it wasn't profitable. Mark II, Toyota Mark II. You know, I was an hour from Asheville. When I wanted arts, I went up to Asheville. We had a community college where I was that they taught pottery, but then they got rid of that and made room for NASCAR driving. It's like, what? You're going to teach these young people to be NASCAR drivers? Pottery is like what now the Carolinas are famous for, pottery and cabinetry, until they ate all their trees and ended up with nothing but loblolly pine for making pulp. Yeah, they undid themselves down there a lot. But I did find artists and writers and musicians, and it would have been much better if my husband had not been a narcissist and did not want me to be around anybody but him. Aside from that, I got to make some really nice friends, and I hated leaving because I hated leaving them. And really, the only reason we ended up moving to Rhode Island was so my husband could grow marijuana. I've got nothing against pot at all, believe me. But that was his thing. And so I agreed to the move because I wanted him to be happy. And all it did was make me unhappy. It's lovely if you can just grow 1 or 2 plants for yourself. If you start growing a bunch of them, it's not fun anymore. It's a lot of work. And a lot of hassles because most people don't want to be living anywhere near a grow, because when it gets ripe, it smells. And isn't that terrible? I mean, North Carolina has the Southern Highland Guild up on the right up there on the Appalachian Trail on the Blue Ridge Highway. And that was for artisans, and pottery was the #1 draw. And then NASCAR. Well, I don't think anybody in that area could afford to be a participant. Everybody went to watch the NASCAR races, but it's not, you don't, just because you learn how to race a car doesn't mean that you're going to be good enough to get into that, and that people are going to put up money for you or buy you those very, 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 very expensive cars. All of that is a lot of money. So I don't know why they went to this very rural community where people were mostly poor. Why they were doing that, beyond me. And I only even knew about it because I made friends with one of the teachers who was also, for the area, a famous artist. He was wonderful, a potter, and he taught. He had his own studio, which was good because he had to leave the college because they discontinued the pottery program. And I signed him up for a few of those pottery classes because he was very good with clay, and I was trying to get him to go back into clay because when we got together, that's what I wanted to do, was art together. It did not pan out, but I did get him a wheel. I managed to make that happen, and he never used it. So yeah, a lot of effort for nothing. And then when he cheated on me with a potter in California. I thought that was pretty fucked up and then funny. The partners I tried to make happy. You know, see, that is the thing, Maui. We don't make people happy. And people are not responsible for making us happy. When we think that we're responsible for making other people happy, we're inevitably going to make ourselves miserable. We're responsible for our own happiness. None of my friends ever have to worry about me counting on them to make me happy. I'll never put that kind of pressure on them. It's up to each of us to make ourselves happy. That's the bottom line. If we don't know what makes ourselves happy, we certainly can't be making other people happy. And if we teach people that they need to rely on us for their happiness, we have just trapped ourselves and ruined their lives. Because if you're waiting for someone else to make you happy, you're going to be miserable the rest of your life. It's not anybody's job to make us happy. That's our job. We have to find what makes us happy. We've got to do the things that lift us up. And if you want to share some of that with others and help lift other people, great. I do that all the time. But I also learned by doing that class, the positivity class, for 3.5 years in this community, but not just here, not us online, us in the live community. I learned, again, a lesson that is sometimes hard to accept. We can't change people at all unless they want to change, and then it's them doing the work, right? It's not us. We cannot change other people. And if a person doesn't want to improve their lives by changing their viewpoints at all, they're going to continue, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it's not your responsibility. Like when I would have people join my group, my motto was, and I said it right on the poster that goes up on the door, when you enter, you leave the past behind. This is not a therapy group. That doesn't what I say, but I told them again, this is not a therapy group. I'm not giving you group therapy. I'm not giving you individual therapy, although we will talk about your individual challenges as things come up, but that's not what we're here for. When you come in, you must let go of the past. If you're going to sit here and talk about the past that was bad, I'm going to cut you off. Because we're not here to talk about the past and how it sucked. Everybody, without exception on this planet, has had something shitty happen to them at some point in their life. That's life. So the point for me is, are you willing to make a commitment to yourself to be happy? If you cannot tell yourself that, if you're not going to say, I am going to look for ways to be happy, I can't do that for you. And I also don't want you in my group, because I'm not going to sit here and talk about how sad you are or how things sucked in the past. And I don't even like to talk about my own sucky past, except when I have to explain some things. Like, well, look, you know what, I've lived through that. I know it's possible, at least for me. Doesn't mean it's possible for you. You may not have the same determination that I have with a certain idea. So you won't keep practicing something, or you won't study something, whatever. It's up to you. You've got to decide to be happy in the first place. And once you decide you want to genuinely be happy, it gets easier to let the past go, because the past is all you got stuck up here. And that's automatic. It's always there, because the brain only holds the past. Why do you think people spend billions of dollars every year on astrology, numerology, tarot card readings, calling psychics? I made my money that way for 12 years. I get it, all right? So I know people get afraid of the future because they can't see it. They don't understand they're supposed to create it, that they're supposed to envision it, that you have to see it in your head. What do you want to happen? Not what do you think is going to happen, because that's what will happen. You have to decide what you want to attract into your life. That's where your power is, in not going back to the past. You have to stay present. Even thinking about what you had for dinner last night, if it was not enormously pleasing to cook and eat, or just eat that meal, don't think about it. It's already passed. It's behind you or in the toilet. It's done. And just like eating a good meal, if you had a good memory, it's nice to remember it. But if you're going to sit there and remember all the times you had shitty food, what are you doing? You're making the current food shittier. You're not enjoying it. You're thinking about, well, this is better than it used to be. But when you say that, your mind is half over there where it used to be, back in the past. Fuck that. It doesn't matter what the past is anymore. It really doesn't, because you have no power there. You can't change it. You can't move on from it. You can only go, here I am now. Now, from where I'm at, what do I want? What would make me happy? Well, I'm glad that she was excited for your health turnaround. But you've been living it every day. You created it. When you are pulling in that energy to heal your own body, and you got to remember, doctors don't heal. Doctors don't heal us. Doctors guide us, they can diagnose us, they can offer medicine, but the actual healing, with or without medicine, goes on within your body by you. And what's going to determine how well that works out is your subconscious mind. If your subconscious mind is telling you you're going to be sick, guess what? That's like people saying, oh, I went out with a wet head, I'm going to catch a cold, and then they do. Had nothing to do with having a wet head. That's a myth. The wet head does not give you a cold. Letting your whole system get run down and get cold and not resting, not eating, that's what makes you sick. That's what makes you more likely to catch something and suffer from it. But if your attitude is great and you're energized with happiness, you're very much less likely to catch a bug in the first place. And if it does wander through your nose, it won't be able to get a grip on you, because your chemistry is not the chemistry of being susceptible. Our minds are in charge until we realize that it's our higher self that is truly in charge, using the mind. But if our mind is allowed to just flip-flop around and go back and forth to the past and how miserable life was and how those people sucked and blah, 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 you're not here now. You're not changing anything, because you keep going back to where you can't change anything. It's already done. I can sit here and I can talk about my ex-husbands. I can point out that the first ex-husband was a great guy and we still actually communicate. The second ex-husband was my mistake. He was a narcissist, which I didn't even know for 10 years because I was so madly in love with him, and we were living my idyllic life on the farm. Well, it was idyllic for him too, up to a point, because it was country and we had dogs and cats and could go out and, you know, if you had to, you could run out to the back deck and pee off the back deck if you had to, you know what I mean? I mean, not that I recommended that, but that we had that kind of privacy. Nobody could see us from the road. We were away. You'd had to be a hunter in our woods to see what we were doing in our fields. People thought for 12 years that we had moved, because that's how rarely they saw us. So I loved being isolated like that. But 10 years into it, his brain became more evident, and I was like, oh boy, did I make a mistake? So if I sit here and think about the mistake, what do you think I'm attracting? I'm going to attract more remembering of what wasn't good. I am going to, if I was interested in attracting a relationship, you think I'm going to attract a healthy, happy relationship if I'm just thinking about the asshole in my past? No, I can't. My vibe is low. My vibe is back there. You want better, you have to think better to start. You've got to be able to see it in your head. And if you can't see it in your head, you can't make it up in your mind, you're going to keep falling back to the past. That's a bad habit. And if you can't break that habit of being your old you, you can't create the new you. And a new you happens, and it starts to happen the moment you start thinking forward instead of back. That's why in that group it was, don't think you're going to sit here and talk about the shit you've experienced. I'm not interested. Now, on a personal level, I'm like, yeah, I would love to know a little bit more about you, but that's not what I want to really know about anybody anymore. I don't care about your past. Whatever you are dealing with because of your past is your issue, your challenge, your problem. I'm not going to make it mine. Why would I? Why would anybody? I'm not saying I lack empathy. I don't. I'm very empathetic, but I'm empathetic where it's healthy. I'm not going to be connecting with every misery in the world. If you're wide open to your empathy, you're just feeling sorry for everybody, which is another way of saying, I wish everybody would feel sorry for me. Okay, there's healthy empathy and then there's the nutsy empathy. Well, if you're feeling better, Maui, then it's working. Again, we are what we tell ourselves. If we tell ourselves we're crippled, if we tell ourselves we're ugly, if we tell ourselves we're unlovable or unwanted, that becomes the reality. The self-talk is what's dictating your reality. So you need to catch yourself when you're thinking about yourself or about the world. Are you looking at all the bummer stuff? Are you looking for the good? Are you balancing looking at the news with something that cheers you up? It's not a lack of empathy not to sit here and cry all day, because if you were to connect with the real misery going on, you would have been crying from the day you were born and you still would be going and you wouldn't stop, because there's always something horrible going on somewhere on the planet. But at the same time, there's something horrible going on. There's something wonderful going on. And you could be that something wonderful. You can bring that wonderfulness into the world through your own thoughts and actions. So why focus on the sucky stuff if you can't change it? Focus on what you can. And if you can't and you just need to withdraw, fine. Do what you need to do to bring your own energy back up. Because if you can't raise your vibration, you're going to keep attracting stuff you don't want. You need to learn how to chill out, how to look for what makes you happy, how to uplift yourself before you can uplift another person. So in my group, there's people who came in and I was able to predict within 2 meetings if they were going to last in the group or not. It's like this person, all they want to do is be miserable. If they're not getting sympathy for how bad they feel or how bad their past was, they don't want to be around. They don't want to hear constructive things that they can do to improve their lives, make themselves happier, because they're in that groove of misery and they don't want anybody pulling them out of that. And you'll see them walking around here with this miserable face. I don't even ask them how they are anymore, because I know what the answer is. I haven't It's like, all right, okay, well, you know what? Have a good day, honey. I hope you feel better. What else can you say? If you stand there and keep feeding that, you're feeding their need to be miserable, unhappy, and every time they start to get better, they find something else to screw themselves over. They find somebody else to drag them down, something else to cry about. It's like, no, my own family, my nephew and his new fiance, my sister and I all went out for dinner. My sister was very upset because our nephew's older brother is kind of incommunicado. He never seems to call or talk. You write to him or send him things or call, no answer, no responses. He's like the invisible man. But his younger brother said yes unless he needs you for something. And it always starts the same way. Hey, buddy, how you doing? And then he presents what he's really looking for. Does he call to say hello? No. Does he call to say happy birthday? No. Does he call to see if you want to go do something? No. My nephew, the one I'm talking about, has lived here now for 2 years, and I still haven't seen him or heard from him. I mean, he's an hour away. I don't expect him just to hop on in his car and come down and visit, but nothing. Zero, nothing. My sister got all upset about it. She's depressed about it. Oh, he never calls. He never doesn't respond. And I said, get over it. We have a bunch of people in our family that are like that. I just don't bother with them anymore. If he wants me, after all the years of me reaching out, it's his turn. It's not, I have no resentment, no anger, no dislike. But if you want to develop a relationship with me, you're going to have to meet me halfway. And if you're not willing to do that,
I'm not getting myself turned into a pretzel over you. I'm just going to go on. I've got other people that I care about. I've got friends. I've got lots of things I love to do. So, hey, you want to be my friend? You're going to have to meet me. And if you're a relative and you don't want to, fine. I don't take it too personally, you know. So, like my this nephew destroyed 2 of my guitars, which I sent up to him from North Carolina because he is a wonderful, wonderful musician, and he destroyed his guitar, and he needed a guitar, and I'm going, I got a spare. I can let him have my guitar for a while. I'll loan it to him, and then eventually I'll come back up and I'll get it. Well, he broke it, and $250 later, it still was not perfect. I sent him another guitar. That one fell off the damn wall and broke the neck clean off. A $2,000 guitar. So I learned the hard way not to send him my guitars. But I don't have, like, I haven't saved up a bunch of anger about it. It's like, okay, he was a young person, irresponsible, but now he's an adult with 2 children, and I still haven't met the second child. So my sister's all bent out of shape over it, and I'm like, let it go. Let it go. If they don't look you up, you're the auntie. You know, I'm an auntie. I'm tired of chasing them. If they want to know me or take part of my life, they know where to find me, and I'm just leaving it at that. They're adults now. 35 years old is not a little child. You can assume a 15-year-old is not going to want too much time with an auntie. It's like a grandparent. You're an old person. What do they care? I get that. I'm fine with that. I don't have a whole lot of interest in 15-year-olds. They're a pain in the ass. But they have their own stuff to go through. But I don't care if, you know, you just live your own life. If he's happy, then I'm happy for him. It's not a condition that he contact me for me to be able to feel happy for him if he's happy. If he's miserable, there's nothing I can do about it. But he doesn't like call me for advice or hello or coffee. So my sister hopefully will work this through and let it go. And like I said, I'm already at the point of I'll love you when you're around and I'll love you when you're not around, but I'm not reaching out any more than I already have. If you think about me, you can contact me. And that's how it has to be for people. I'm not going to sit around thinking about, I got dissed in 1986 or whatever, you know. It's like, let go. How much misery do we need to drag with us? But we build up momentum, and momentum is really important to know about because although theoretically all momentum stops when you go to sleep, wherever you leave off mentally at night is where you're going to wake up in the morning. So that's why it's important to have those few minutes before you fall asleep to get cozy, to feel good, to think about happy things, think about what you want to see the next day. And then when you wake up in the morning, you're going to wake up in that better spot. When you practice this for about a week, you're going to notice that you wake up more cheerful, more hopeful, more open to good things because you're conditioning your brain. You've got to train your brain. And that's what's missing. We don't understand. Our brains are run amok machines. We have to remember that. They're primitive. They react. They're very reactive. They are the stores of memory. But how useful is that? If we can just let go of the past, then we can break the momentum and just start attracting something better and new immediately. But some people, you need to go to sleep, break the bad momentum. Like, never watch news before bed and never touch the news when you first get up. You should stay away from that because it's dangerous to your psyche. It disturbs your peace. Don't look at news unless it's joyful news. Protect yourself. There's plenty of other things you can watch. Wait until you're all together and you've had your tea or coffee and you're ready to take a look at the headlines. But even there, switch fast. Get the gist of it. Remind yourself that will be updated in another day or two, that what you're looking at is already old news. If you really wanted to keep up on something, wait another day, wait 2 days. And then whatever was going on will be more compact to catch up with. You don't have to keep on the edge of your seat all the time the way the news media keeps feeding us. The 24/7 news cycles are insane. They're unhealthy. And they have gotten people into these habits that are psychologically self-destructive. So protect yourself. You cannot stop people from producing crap, but you can prevent yourself from observing it. You do not have to see everything going on in the world. I will see a headline and I get it, okay, boom. Yeah, like that stupid thing. I was like, yeah, catch on. Do what everybody else is doing. Yeah, meme is popular. Why? I don't know. It's just everybody's doing it. It's like, yeah, okay. Have fun. Bye. You're not the kind of person I want to be around. So, yeah. Unless you're 67 years old, please. As a matter of fact, I see comments on YouTube now, and some of them are so stupid. I just say, well, I can tell by your comment that you're about 12 years old. And that's where I leave it. You obviously do not know what you're talking about. You don't look anything up. And I do actually say things like that. I can be a little rude, but I mean, I don't cuss anybody out or call them names. I don't shame them, but I do say if they use a word like communism incorrectly, I'll say look it up before you use it again, because that comment makes you look like you're 12. So I mean, I think some of them actually are 12. No news is good news. If you don't hear anything, go on. Look, you're on an island, all right? Your reality is very limited compared to the mainland, because we've got all these states that are connected and you can just drive across borders. You're on an island. Things have to come by airplane or by boat, all right? We don't have a transporter yet. But in a way that is bad, because things are going to cost more because they've got to be shipped in. On the other side of that, though, is the freedom of knowing that there's a whole bunch of stuff that can't touch you. You're going to have plenty of warning before something hits land, except for, well, obviously, lava. But even that, they go, hey, we got rumbling. It looks like we can have a problem here. It's not 100% unknown. You do have seismic, what do they call it? The sensors, the detectors, to know when there's a little rumbling. They can go, holy shit, get ready. But aside from that, yeah, a ship takes so much time. Even an airplane is going to be from mainland to you is 6 hours flight. So you do have a little warning versus driving across. So your local news is very local, and it is island news. So you can block out some of the stuff that's happening on the mainland because it's just not going to personally affect you. The stuff that will affect you, you will hear about. It's like bad news travels fast. No news is good news. If there's something bad going on, you will hear it. And that's it. You got a hurricane coming, you get warning. All right? We're not surprised by a whole lot of stuff anymore when it comes to things like that. So you have a lot more room to develop happy grooves than people who have to worry about a million other directions that they can be attacked from. So think about all the good reasons you're there, all the good things you have on that island. We know downsides exist everywhere. There's no place on the planet there isn't a downside. Come on. We're humans, and we were born in these generations without fur. And without fur, we're already defenseless against cold weather. So we adapt and we adjust, but it should always be toward joy, always towards what makes us happy, not not in a way that makes other people unhappy. Like, we're not going to get happy because we're stealing somebody's things. We may get happy for a few minutes, but you know what I'm saying. So your happiness has to come from within first. And the only way that's going to happen is if you sit down and give a little time and thought to what is going on in the world that you really need to know, and what's going on right in front of you that you need to pay attention to. What can you do in your own home? What can you do in your own reality? Hawaii, I know after only 5 days there, it's full of people doing crafts. People love to use the environment to create from. And anywhere you go, you're going to be able to find somebody who's doing paintings on leaves or turning coconut shells into bowls. There's lots of things that can be done that produce nice things for yourself or for your friends. You don't have to go into business. I would love to make a bowl out of a coconut shell, but it doesn't mean I want to set up business making coconut bowls. So there are lots of ways to entertain ourselves and have a good time and look at the bright side just wherever we are at. So look around. When I was isolated, I found great joy in identifying wild foods. I started foraging, identifying mushrooms, which ones are edible, which ones are not, how to cook them, blah, 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 blah. I mean, the environment is endlessly fascinating. So look around. What makes you happy? That should be your number one question every day. What's going to make me happy today? Yes. Yes, things are going to happen anyway. But if you are thinking about and feeling good about what you're thinking about, you're going to attract more of that into your life. That is how the world is working. It's physics that people want to put a lot of mystery around. God did this for me. You're a projection of God. So you as God, what do you want to create in your world today? That's simple. So today I'm going to create food in my kitchen because I got a little pickle jar and I'm going to make pickles out of some little cucumbers and garlic and onion. 3-day pickles. So that's going to be fun. Did I show you my pickle jar? I'll show you my pickle jar, and then I'm going to go. This is an hourglass pickle jar. This is just padding. It's solid. The thing in the middle is a filter. Silicone filter that pulls out. So what you do is, this was made for making it easier for you to get pickles or olives out of your jar. So what you do, if you're not going to make your own pickles, you get one of these. You put everything in the top, like a jar of pickles, right? All the fluid goes down here, most of the fluid. So the idea is that you store it in your refrigerator just like regular pickles, but when it's just sitting in its fluid, it's sitting like this. But when you're ready to get a pickle out, you turn it upside down so that the fluid goes down the bottom part and this part is clear for you to pull your food out without getting your fingers in the brine. Very clever. But I'm using this to make pickles. It'll be done the exact same way, except that I will cut up my veg, fill it, make my solution, and pour it over that, and let it sit for a few days. And after 3 days, it'll be delicious. So I thought when I ordered this that it was going to be a gallon. I know, and it's nice, heavy. This is the real thick stuff, and it's heavy. It's really good. It'll take heavy temperatures, cold or hot. Of course, when you make your brine, you let it cool down before you pour it over veg, or you'll melt. You'll just make them mushy. So I thought I was getting a big thing, like this big. So when this showed up in a little box, hardly bigger than this, I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So it is smaller than I want, but I am making, I don't eat pickles every day, but pickled food is good for you in small amounts. It's good for digestion and all that. And I did get pH strips to make sure I don't kill myself. As long as your pH is low enough, like around 4.2, something like that, it will not poison you, because at that pH nothing can live. So all the bacteria that would normally go in a pickled product is dead, or doesn't get a chance to grow in the first place. Procreate Dreams 2. Oh, fun. My friend Annie, when I told her about the walking stick I have, actually she has seen it. She just doesn't remember, because I haven't seen her in many years now. We've been friends for over 20 years. But we worked together online as psychics. So we would meet every year in Asheville, where her mother was living, and we would have lunch together and talk and catch up, take pictures, and all that. Well, she wants a picture of me with my walking stick, but she wants it to have a kind of a mystical feel around it, which to me says AI. And she wanted to know if I knew anybody that could take a picture of me with my walking stick. And I don't, because all the people I know here are incapable of, they just do not, they don't think that way. They don't think in terms of taking pictures, so their pictures come out pretty crappy. But we had a woman, well, we have a woman that lives here that she wanted a picture of her face for a profile, but she kept she's actually a very pretty woman, but she saw herself as ugly and how she never takes good pictures. I said, why don't you let me try? And so I took a picture of her, and she was like, I love it. She never saw herself that way. But I know how to take pictures. I'm not an expert, but I do fairly well. But nobody can do that's here. They can do that for me. So I'm like, yeah, I could do a selfie if I have to, but not with my walking stick standing up, kind of a thing. So I don't know. If I find somebody that can manage to do that, I'll send it to you. I don't know how I'm going to make my walking stick look mystical, although it does have a face on it. Procreate Dreams 2. Did you try Procreate Dreams 1? What did you use to make that animation I made today? Did you send me more stuff? I see messages here. Oh, my friend Carol. Okay. She doesn't realize I'm live right now, because I'm usually off by noon or quarter after. I better go. It is getting late and I need to eat. And I've been on here for an hour too long. Thanks for hanging out with me. Have fun with your program. And welcome to Connecticut, Carmen. I'm so glad you're here. Your friend has been very excited about you moving up here, so I'm glad you're here. And I'll be back probably Tuesday. Tomorrow's Monday. I might end up spending a bunch of time in the kitchen. I go on cooking jags. I mean, I cook every day, but some more than others. Today I don't have to do much cooking because I made a lot of it extra yesterday. So it's ready just to be, simplified. But I will see you soon, one way or another. If you're signed up for notices, you'll know when I'm online anyway, right? So have a great rest of the day.